Since YouTube has repeatedly blocked my video about the ICE shooting in Maine this morning from being published, and it is now being subjected to additional review, which could take up to 48 hours, I want to talk about what else we know in the case in the intervening hours between when I tried to upload that video and now. This morning around 7:20 a.m., the violent, lawless, masked paramilitary agents known as ICE shot a Colombian man in the street in Maine and killed him. Senator Angus King and multiple other elected officials said that this gentleman was in the United States with a legal work permit. I want to remind you that there is no justification, including immigration violations or being in this country undocumented, that justifies being shot dead in the street.
Hi, it's Congresswoman Pingree, and I stopped on my way to Washington here in Biddeford because there was a police shooting this morning. ICE officers shot a 26-year-old Colombian man who was allegedly allowed to work here in the state of Maine. We are being told it was a targeted enforcement activity, but I just want people to understand that we have other cases in our office that they call a targeted enforcement activity. One of them is someone who is legally here on a work permit. They are awaiting an asylum decision, and they are allegedly overstaying their visa because you can't get your visa renewed while you are claiming asylum. We have no idea if this is a similar case. We have no idea what this particular case is. What we do know is that nobody should be shot, so we're deeply distressed by what's going on. We're demanding more information from ICE, and we just want the family to know we're here. In deep sympathy for them, we're here to stand up for this community and for all of our constituents in Maine. We know that there are plenty of ICE activities going on in our state. We hear about them every day in our office, and we are dedicated to helping those individuals and to helping our state to make sure we reduce the ICE presence. And at a federal level, we put more conditions on the ICE officers, wearing body cameras, less detention centers, asking them to operate within the laws of our state.
A couple of things there. I appreciate the Congresswoman showing up, asking ICE to operate within the guidelines of the law is not going to work. It's not going to work. Asking ICE to wear body cameras. Establishment Democrats lobbied for not reducing funding for ICE, not for dismantling, abolishing ICE, but to have ICE wear body cameras. Congress gave more than $170 billion to ICE, and they are well funded, including funding for body cameras. And these agents, just like the murder of Lorenzo last week, none of those agents were wearing body cameras that our taxpayer dollars were supposed to go to pay for. There's no solution. Peggy Flanagan is right. There is no solution here other than abolishing ICE and then seeking justice for these families, justice and restitution. ICE is a violent, lawless paramilitary force funded by your taxpayer dollars. They are not a legitimate law enforcement agency at all. And in fact, as the Congresswoman said, the initial message that we got from ICE was that this was a targeted enforcement operation. But Mark Wayne Mullen has now said, actually, that's not true. Forbes is now reporting in the last few minutes that the man shot this morning in Maine by ICE was not the operation's target. This is a carbon copy of what we saw with Lorenzo's murder in Houston last week. They initially claimed this man is the target of an operation, and then they had to rescind that claim because it's not fucking true. These are innocent men trying to live their lives, and they were gunned down in the street because of racial profiling, because of racism, because ICE are lawless and unhinged. These are men who want to live out their violent video game fantasy, and they are living it out on the streets of the United States, ending the lives of innocent people. And just to clarify here, if someone were the target of an immigration operation, if somebody were in violation of their visa, or they had outstayed their visa, or they were in this country undocumented, that is not a reason to gun them down in the street. Now, Mark Wayne Mullen tried to pull the same bullshit that we saw with Renee Good, with Miramar Martinez, with countless other victims of ICE, with Lorenzo this past week. They tried to claim that he weaponized his vehicle. The man today, this morning, weaponized his vehicle against ICE agents. This is a classic claim. I've talked about this before. It's not just ICE that does this. This is what law enforcement says to justify them shooting you in the street. They say, hey, they are using their vehicle as a weapon. Conveniently, no body cam footage. Conveniently, they are using this narrative even when over and over and over again it falls apart in court. DHS lies through their fucking teeth. DHS is not truthful. DHS is trying to cover up their crimes that they are committing on the streets of the United States and trying to make sure that their agents are never held accountable. Need I remind you that the men who killed Renee Good and Alex Preddy are still working for Customs and Border Patrol and DHS. They are still free on the streets right now, 6 months later. According to Forbes, agents say they tried to stop a vehicle leaving an address, which again, all of this now, they are rescinding this. They're now saying that that's not true, DHS said in their statement, again, they lie through their fucking teeth. How many times has Tricia McLaughlin and agents and mouthpieces of DHS lied through their fucking teeth and been disproven in court? They said that an agent opened fire, quote, fearing for public safety. The man who was gunned down in the street was identified by his neighbor as Juan Sebastian Guerrero. He was a father. His wife and child were present when this happened today. Reports on the ground are that law enforcement was rude and barricaded the family's car so that the wife and child could not leave the crime scene. There is zero expectation that DHS and ICE will be truthful. We have to understand that they intentionally are lying, and they all need to face consequences, legal consequences, for the ways that they have repeatedly lied to the American people, have smeared the names of victims that they have shot, that they have killed, that they have accosted, that they have imprisoned in concentration camps. And speaking of the lies of ICE, lest we not forget, there was this case from January in Minnesota where a Border Patrol agent claimed that he was attacked by immigrants with snow shovels, and in self-defense, he shot one of them. Kristi Noem and Tricia McLaughlin ran with this story, right? Trying to make it sound like there were roving gangs of violent immigrants in Minnesota attacking law enforcement agents with crude implements like snow shovels, right? Well, now we know that actually that agent shot that man through a closed door. Agent Castro was charged with assault and falsely reporting a crime after he shot Julio Cesar Sosa Salas through a closed door in Minneapolis. Over and over and over again, we see not only are they lying through their fucking teeth to try and get away with crimes, they are destroying evidence. Remember when Marimar Martinez was shot 6 times and she miraculously survived? They towed her car many states, like 1,000 miles away, and destroyed evidence. When Renee Good was shot, they towed her car immediately. They hauled her out of the car, completely destroyed evidence at a crime scene. Earlier today, when that gentleman was shot in Maine, they hauled his body out of the car. There is video footage of ICE agents leaning over him, handling the body, destroying evidence, corrupting the crime scene. They do it over and over again because they want to avoid justice for what they are doing. They keep getting caught, though. They keep getting caught in their lies. So as a result of this agent Castro being charged with assault and also with lying to investigators, federal prosecutors wanted access to the information that Minnesota had, the evidence that they had. Minnesota said, fine, we'll give you our evidence on Agent Castro if you give us all of your information, all of your evidence on the killings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. 6 months, federal investigators have been stalling. Shame on any of you who work for the Department of Injustice and the FBI who are complicit in all of this. Shame on you. But I guess federal investigators wanted that information on Agent Castro bad enough that we are getting news today from the Associated Press. They have given Minnesota investigators their files on the murders of Alex Preddy and Renee Good. Again, we don't know how much of that evidence is contaminated. There has been no chain of custody established. We know that they have done their damnedest for 6 months to shut Minnesota investigators out. But it's good that that information is being handed over. We have to operate as if these guys are going to try and stand in the way of justice. The federal government is going to try to stall. They're going to try and bluster. They're going to try and deny justice every way they can and hope that we will give up the pursuit. Hope that we will give up the dogged pursuit of justice and just let them get away with it. And we have to be not only resilient, we have to be persistent in our pursuit of justice. They're trying to wear us down. They're trying to get us to give up. These victims cannot be forgotten, and we cannot give up pursuing justice for each and every one of them. And part of that justice includes abolishing ICE and prosecuting every single person involved with these killings.